In this video, we want to fill out our discussion of innovation and make sure that the introductory part to innovation is clearly understood. This video, therefore, should be seen as part and parcel of the overall presentation of the meaning of innovation, its importance, in a sense, its uses within the competitive environment, and indeed how to bring about international economic growth. But it is a very important concept, so we're going to go across it and have a slightly different perspective to the others. But please see this video in conjunction with the other introductory videos on innovation. So let's start. Let's start by looking at the meaning of innovation. The meaning of innovation. Now, companies face strategic, competitive, and it's part of strategy, but they face strategic, competitive, and dynamic pressure. And it's the dynamic pressure we want to focus in on here. Dynamic or innovative pressure arises out of rapid technological change. We live in a world where there is very rapid technological change. In the last 40, maybe 50 years, the world has really been turned upside down by the advent of technology. The way we live, the products we've got, the way we communicate, the way we work, the way we travel, all of it has been changed out of all recognition from the past. And it's happened through technological change. And innovation is the adaptation of technological change. We see it in the workplace in terms of the technology employed in the workplace, whether it be a manufacturing plant or a service business, for example, an office. It doesn't matter. We still see the advent and the use of technology. So companies need to engage in this type of change in order to survive, because other companies are doing it. And the companies are doing it because it's cutting their costs or it's improving the product and hence improving their sales. So it overlaps with competitive pressure. There is competitive pressure which leads to this need for dynamic change, this dynamism within industry, which is rooted in innovation. So innovation is important. It changes companies. Companies change their products, they change the way we work, they change society, they change the way we live. So we have this process of evolution. And many writers think it's at an accelerating rate. The rate at which we're changing our lifestyles is accelerating. Whether that's true or not need not concern us here, but there is a feeling amongst many so-called pundits or writers in the area to suggest that the rate of technological change is very rapid and increasing. So we're getting new products, new ways of living, we're getting more gadgets within the home, within the car, the way we travel. Everything about us is starting to feel the change of technology. And this is all brought about through innovation, through product change. Technological, logistical, and the growth of international competitiveness all act as an impetus for innovation. You see, innovation is not confined to one particular country. Innovation is international. Sometimes we think that innovation started in America. Well, that's not true. It started with the Industrial Revolution, except in a sense that's not true. It started with the Agrarian Revolution before that. And you could go back further and look at telescopes and go back to Archimedes Where exactly we start is difficult, but mankind seems to have this need to develop products and to continuously improve the products. So now innovation is not rooted in America necessarily. A large part of it is, but it's not entirely. It could be rooted in China, India, or Africa, or Europe. It can be a big innovation, a big change, or it could be a small innovation related to a product or a way of doing something. But we see it all the time in the news. Someone has come up with a new idea to do something. And sometimes these people, who we generally call entrepreneurs, they're the people who have come up with a new idea and then take it to market. They're doing so because they want to make a profit and they want to be recognized as innovators and entrepreneurs. But sometimes they come along with ideas that there was no previous demand for. As customers, we didn't think about this product. For example, microwave ovens. Nobody demanded a microwave oven before it appeared. So it just appeared in the shops. We saw what it was and how useful it was, and we adopted it. It's a product of innovation. Someone who recognized that food could be heated in this way and brought a product to market. All the changes with smartphones, they haven't really been led by customers demanding those changes. The technology developed to that level, and then Apple, Microsoft and Samsung and all of the others started to add functionality. Someone added a camera. It's a telephone. Telephones are used for making telephone calls, but now there was a camera on the same device. Someone added the internet. And then the concept of apps was developed. Mini programs that could perform particular functions. And we could message. So now a smartphone is really a small computer. A small but very powerful computer. So technology is not confined to an area. It spreads throughout the globe, and good ideas spread. There's a rate of fusion of the idea. The idea spreads and it moves out from the epicenter where it started. So it's diffused, I should say, throughout the world to people who wish to adopt it. And we think of products changing. Well, in fact, it could also apply to within companies. Companies change the way they work, change their production process, they change the structure of the business. All of that is innovation. Organizations may innovate by looking at their products, changing their products, improving their products. They could also look at their processes within the business to see how they can change the processes to reduce costs. Looking at their distribution, looking at the distribution systems they use, the warehousing and the way in which they move their products from one place to the next, from the place of production to where the customers need the product. And looking at the most efficient ways of doing that. And even looking at the overall organizational design. Standing back from the company and looking at it and thinking about the administration. Could it be configured differently? Are the functional areas communicating effectively? Do they feed back appropriate information? Is it somehow synchronized? Is it all joined up? Or are there mismatches within the organization which leads to inefficiencies? Traditionally, innovation was seen as improvements on an existing design, and it overlaps with entrepreneurship. This entrepreneurship is seen as alertness to profit opportunities. That's based on the comment of the famous economist Israel Kirzner. Well, that's what entrepreneurship is. Entrepreneurship does not have to be rich people making big decisions. Entrepreneurship can be anyone who's got a good idea. But it has to be an idea that has profit potential. So it's alertness to profit opportunities. It's someone who can see a gap and see how to fill the gap, and through filling the gap generates profits. And these we call entrepreneurs. So it's entrepreneurs who have innovative ideas, generally speaking. Of course, there are two types of entrepreneur there. There's the external entrepreneur, the ones who come up with an idea, put it on the market and make profits for themselves. Or if you like, there are internal entrepreneurs, people within a business who come up with good ideas for the business. And they're happy that the business will adopt their idea, even though they themselves do not reap big monetary rewards. So there are internal entrepreneurs within the business who are constantly looking at the business, looking for efficiencies, and don't necessarily make a lot out of it. But there are the external ones who set up these vast businesses. We think of Microsoft, we think of Google and Apple, and we think of all the big companies. Entrepreneurship determines whether a product or service will be offered for sale on the market. It's the entrepreneur who decides whether a product will go on the market. So the entrepreneur may innovate a particular product, may change the product, may improve the product, but then decide it's still not right for the market and will not engage in further costs in marketing the product. So even though it's been innovated, been changed, doesn't necessarily mean it means it goes on the market. Innovators will adjust the design attributes of the product to more fully align with customers' requirements. And that really is the crux of the matter. It's trying to determine what customer requirements are. It's trying to empathize with the customers, trying to relate to them. What do they want? And sometimes, as I said, the customers don't know what they want themselves, e.g. the microwave oven. Nobody really wanted a microwave oven before it became available. So entrepreneurs have to imagine what the customers will want and then innovate products or introduce products that will align with those desires on the part of the customers to generate sales, which will generate the profits, which is the reward to entrepreneurship. Innovators may also modify organizational and production processes to improve quality and or reduce costs. Well, innovators are always on the lookout for improvements. Engineers within businesses will look at processes critically to try to work out ways to improve the efficiency. Sometimes it's just working out the layout of the plant. Sometimes it's joining machines together, perhaps in quite a novel way, or sometimes perhaps just modifying the machines to do certain tasks that hitherto they were not doing. So it's modifying the organizational structure, looking at the overall structure of the business, the administration, as I said earlier, how it links to the various functional areas and how efficient it is and how information is processed and the type of information is dealt with. Is it necessary? What happens to the information? How is it stored? How efficient is the administration? How efficient are the various departments? How do the various departments communicate with each other? And how does the whole business mesh together to produce one efficient unit? And it's the innovators who are constantly working on these issues. Sometimes not even actively working on it, sometimes just thinking about it from time to time. But it's the innovators who bring out the suggestions and the improvements. Joseph Schumpeter, back in the 1930s, a famous Austrian economist, he saw innovation as bringing about a new product. And he's one of the first thinkers in this area. So he saw innovation leads to newness, a new product. But it also could lead to a new process, a different way of working, a different way of modifying the inputs into the outputs. It could be quite a radical change, or it could be quite a subtle change. But it's constantly monitoring the processes to try and reduce costs. But innovation could also be opening a new market. So it's innovating the business, the business in total, by opening up a new market, which will have repercussions on the size of the business, the way the business is laid out, the number of employees, the amount of capital. But opening up a new market will shake up the business, will radically change the business. New ways of organizing the business. Perhaps instead of having departments reporting to one person and that one person reporting to the managing director or the CEO, whoever, perhaps there may be more autonomy given to the individual departments, with the proviso that they communicate with each other to have smooth running. So it's the way that the business is organized, maybe innovated. It could be that there's a new source of supply. Raw materials may change. The product may be made from one material at one time and later on changed. With telephones, it was once made in bakelite. Now it was made in plastic. And there's movements to change it into all sorts of alloys. And we see it in cars. Cars were of a certain type, they were modified and became more efficient, and eventually the internal combustion engine was refined, and now we have electric cars, and all the time there's looking at new ways of making the product, delivering the product, and introducing new sources of supply and new inputs into the product itself. So innovation is a critically important concept. It cuts across microeconomics and macroeconomics. It looks at the competitive process. It looks at the macro implications for change in terms of employment, international trade, and these also affect exchange rates, rates of interest, government debt, borrowing. So really, innovation and production and economic activity are central to our whole understanding of economic welfare. And innovation is rated amongst these concepts, so it's well worth studying. Having said that, let's leave it there and say thank you for watching.